Greetings. Welcome to Wins and Lessons. Today I have the privilege to have my mentor, my brother, Mr. Jonathan Humphrey on. And before we get into the topic, I just want to share that he's an awesome person. He's been very helpful and instrumental in helping me to get to where I am today. So on today's topic, we'll be talking about how to take opportunities in a time of crisis. So, Brother Jonathan, would you please share with the people a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First, let me just say thank you, Mike. It's been a privilege, to work with you, and thank you for allowing me to come on Wins and Lessons. I've been watching the show for a while now, and just watching from afar. So I appreciate the opportunity to come on, especially in this time of what you said, crisis that's going on right now. It's just a great opportunity, a blessing to be able to talk about opportunities in crisis. So a little bit about me. Originally from Nashville, Tennessee. Came down here to Memphis, where I am now. Went to college, went for education, graduated, and taught. Schools are all around the city of Memphis for about 6 years. Went on to coach teachers for 2 years. Went on to be an assistant principal, then eventually went on to be a school principal. And so that's kind of my role now. In the meantime, or I guess in the time I'm doing all that, also run a nonprofit organization. And just try to do what I can to help out the children around the city of Memphis. So, man, this is just a passion of mine. Is helping people and helping children. It's a passion of mine. So, thank you for the opportunity.
Man, absolutely, man. I'm just glad to finally have you on. I've been trying to get you on for a while now. So I guess this ties into the topic, man. It's an opportunity. So
Absolutely.
This is the perfect opportunity, man. Just to have you on. So I'll just start by just asking a couple of questions, man. So you talked about a nonprofit, right? Could you just talk a little bit more about the nonprofit?
Yeah, sure, man. The first one I started when I was a teacher, man. When I was teaching over at Crump Elementary School, I was teaching, and kind of found that kids, man, were looking for more than just academics. They wanted to know more about me as a person. And not that it was about me necessarily, but it was just about the role model and the person they were looking for, kind of like inspiration in their lives. And so, as I was teaching, I thought back to when I was a kid and what the teachers did for me, and they kind of took me under their wing, kind of mentored me as a young man. And so, man, as I was funny story actually, man, is two friends of mine, we were sitting around on a Friday or Saturday night, man. We were just talking about, man, like, how do we make our impact on the city? How do we help, the city? And, man, I was talking about the kids I was teaching and just some of the struggles they were having, getting to know the parents. And we just kind of said, you know what, man, let's start a mentor program. And, man, we just kind of took it from there. And it's like, what can we do, positively? So we started like brainstorming things around character education, etiquette, being a young gentleman, how to treat young ladies, just different topics that we would have helped for someone to kind of show us, especially those of us that, were absent of a father, or maybe didn't have a father in the household all the time. Mm-hmm. So we built out a program, and we just started working. Every Saturday we would go up to the school, man, and we would work with the boys from 10 to 12 every Saturday. We exposed them to like golf, tennis, etiquette, and eating in formal restaurants, being a young gentleman, shaking hands, just a myriad of things that kind of unspoken rules and things you need to know.
Right.
But really just try to instill them about being good people. And so that was kind of my first thing, and we just kind of started and said, why not make a nonprofit out of it? So we did, and we just kind of rolled from there. And unfortunately, I ended up moving to a different school. But the good thing was the program that I started stayed at the school, so they continued to do it after I left. So it was just a good opportunity. I actually had the chance to go back at one of their end of year celebrations and talk to the kids, a different group of kids, some years later. So it was just a good opportunity to work with some youth.
That's amazing, man. So you just kind of started it when you were a teacher. You said your first one, right? So you're working on the second one. Is that the Village Mid-South?
Yeah, that's the Village, man. And it kind of similar situation. When you're kind of talks about this crisis and opportunities piece where, you know, all around us, even before the pandemic hit, you know, there are people in crisis all around us,
Right.
people in need that just need supports. And so, you know, when you take a moment to stop thinking about yourself and kind of what you need, and you begin to think about how can I help other people, man, you just begin to think about, man, you know, I have this gift, I have this talent, or something I enjoy doing. And then you get around like-minded people, and then you begin to think, you begin to just kind of put out ideas and think about how can you help people. And so that's kind of how the village was birthed, which was, and how do we bring people together to support the people in need? Because one of the things that people often talk about is there's so many organizations out here doing similar work, but they work in isolation. And so one of the major things we thought about, our mission really is the whole thing around it takes a village to raise a child. And so, like, how do we bring people in the community together to have one common goal? And even though we might be doing different things or even duplicate services, how do we enhance it and make it better? Kind of that old Golden State mantra, strength in numbers, right? The more people that are working in the same for the same goal, the more impact we have.
That's dope. That's dope. You know, I would definitely like to speak to that. You know, before we really get into the meat of the conversation, but when I met you about 2 years ago, I believe, and you know, you were very instrumental in helping me get you know, kind of where I wanted to be in the field of education. But I remember that summer 2018 is kind of when you know, first began putting those pieces together for the village. And, you know, we had a lot of men from all over the city, from all over the area, just coming together from different various walks of life, various experiences and things like that. Just come together to support, you know, a positive movement, to support, you know, a mutual interest. And I think that's, you know, definitely needed. You mentioned, you know, how other organizations are doing similar work, but, you know, make sure that we're working together cohesively, you know, to do that. I definitely think that's important, man. And we definitely need more of that, especially in times like these.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my first question would be, you know, being in education with your experience, what would you say will be the biggest opportunity right now, or the biggest area of focus right now, with everything being closed due to the COVID-19, with, you know, people possibly having you know, limited resources or limited access to, you know, online resources or whatnot. What would you think would be the most critical area of need right now?
I mean, that's a loaded question, but I do think that, you know, one of the things that this is, you know, well, let me say this first. I just want to say, you know, in this time that we're in this crisis, man, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to, you know, our frontline people, the nurses, doctors, firefighters, police officers, and even our educators that are, you know, still out there every day trying to make sure their kids get an education. And the other thing that people say a lot right now is, you know, everybody's working from home. But the reality is, you know, these are not normal working from home conditions. So it's not just like you're working at home. You know, you have children at home, you have sick ones and loved ones that's staying in somebody's home. It's just a lot of different dynamics that go on. And so when we think about, you know, opportunity and crisis and what maybe the greatest need is, the greatest need is for us to not focus so much on ourselves, but focus on other people. And I think that's always hard to do in a crisis. And it's also one of those times where, you know, a crisis such as this, where people are quarantined and supposed to be at home, it kind of forces you to kind of reflect on yourself and reflect about, like, you know, what is it that you are doing right now? What's your current state? You know, what is your mental mind frame right now? And then, you know, from that perspective, then, like, what is it that I can do for someone else? You know, I think that's always the next piece is, how am I doing first? You know, so just reflecting yourself, but then also thinking about, how do I help someone else? And oftentimes in times like this, it's not about doing something grandiose. It's just about what are the small things you can do to help other people. Because right now, even like education, people working from home and trying to educate children, the parents, that's a tough task.
Yeah.
Because many people are actually working at home and trying to make sure their kids are online and doing work and doing these things, and it's a tough juggling act to work and educate at the same time. So not so much as a focus on necessarily academics, but what are the things you can do to make sure that your child is stable? What can you do to make sure that your child is mentally stable right now, going through a situation where they're not seeing their friends, they're not in contact with the kids that they normally would see, they're not in the constructs of being at school in a regular routine. So what things can you put in place at home to keep it consistent? Routines at home. And then how can you just be thinking about the next person?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you touched on a lot of key things there. One thing, I kind of want to expound on a little bit and just kind of hop back on the main course. But as far as someone who is, working from home or just at home and maybe taking classes or something, they have a lot of time on their hands to, just kind of reflect on themselves and mention that. Um, so, what do you think would be some key opportunities there as far as self-reflection? What are some areas that you think you would suggest for a person to really focus in on during that time?
I think that's a really good question. I think that's the question a lot of people are asking themselves is now that I'm here and I'm reevaluating or avoiding reevaluating my life in this current state. I think a key point is to think about one of the things I actually been reading a lot about is your purpose. Like, what is it that really excites you? What is it that's your vocation? What's your calling that you should be doing? Because this is a time that maybe forces some people or some of us to really look at careers we've chosen, jobs we're in, situations we're in, and begin to really think about, man, is this where I really need to be? And then if it's not, how do I make a transition to actually get to where I want to be?
That's good.
That's a hard conversation to have with yourself. Depending on where you are in your career, especially if you've been in the same career, same job for a long period of time, and now you're starting to look at, man, I really, really want to do something else. But the other piece that comes in there is we start looking at the reasons why we aren't there. It's sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's people around you that kind of keep you in a space, and sometimes it's just you being comfortable and not wanting to step out there and do something different, even though it's what you really should be doing. So I think, at this time, it's a really great time to stop for a minute, start writing down the things that you want to accomplish. Start looking at things that maybe you said you want to accomplish a long time ago that you've actually accomplished, and then start inventorying like your interests. What is it that you're interested in? Because what we do know comes out of crisis and things that force us to kind of make a hard pivot is that new things are birthed, new ideas, new businesses, new opportunities come out of times like this because people get creative. They start really reevaluating, I'm doing this one thing, but really my passion is this. And this gives you some people
Right.
time to really begin to flesh that out and think about what's my plan to do something different on the other side of this. Another side of that is, Mike, that it might not just be about career. It might be about your mental mind state. Because it could be a situation where you've just become someone that's just not happy in life, right? And as you're forced to kind of be home and be thinking about where you are, sometimes it's just really being very intentional about recognizing the blessings and things that you actually have. And
That's
then
right.
begin to shift your mindset around, man, some things you've taken for granted that are now kind of been stopped or halted. And now just being on the other side of that, coming out of this COVID-19 or quarantine or whatever, with a different mindset about where you are and where you're headed.
That's good. That's really good, man. So, if I'm understanding correctly, the opportunities that you can take away from this crisis, are not limited to, your evaluating your career decisions, but also to your mental health. You have opportunity to just really self-reflect, analyze on your decisions and analyze your feelings and your emotions to make sure that you're processing those correctly to move forward in a more productive way. I think that's very important, man. I can definitely relate to that myself in every area of my life. So this man, with everything being shut down, I can't go to the places I love to go to. I love to frequent. It's just a long time, basically, just being at home. And I think being at home, for some people, it forces you to really just sit down and look at yourself. You're limited as far as your activities. You have to sit down and look. I'm the type of person, I like to be busy. I like to be on the go. I'm always doing something.
Right.
But since things have slowed down, I've had an opportunity to just really check in with myself, check in with, my feelings and my thoughts, just kind of like my career trajectory. What is it that I'm really trying to work for? What is it I'm really trying to achieve? It's been beneficial. The process has been, kind of rough, but but overall, man, I'm thankful for, the opportunity aspect of it. I know that unfortunately some people have less fortunate outcomes due to this. But for me, it's been, it's kind of been a blessing in disguise because I had the opportunity just to sit down and look at self and see some areas of growth that, just really want to focus on.
Yeah.
That's really.
It's a good point, Mike. And one of the things that I always believe in is that, you can be reflective, but you don't have to beat yourself up, because
right.
part of the process is about making the mistake to learn from it, right? And we all make the mistakes. It's just, what do you learn from the mistake that you've made? And then the other side of that too is, as you were saying, as you reflect and you think about different things, is that reflection time is really time for you to be real with yourself. And sometimes it's very difficult because and I'll speak for myself, a lot of times, man, you stay busy because you just don't want to deal with you don't want to deal with the real issues you really have going on, and you stay busy. And not always just because it's intentional. Sometimes it's subconscious that you're busy. But one thing someone showed me a long time ago is, no matter where you go, you're still going to be there. So you go on vacation, you can go to the club, you can go to the concert, you can go wherever you want to go, right? But you still gotta, at the end of the day, you gotta lay down with yourself, right? And you can only run and avoid that real talk about where you are and where you would like to be. It's only so long, so long you continue to do that, or you sacrifice your long-term happiness if you keep putting it off. And so I think that's the whole piece. It's not always about money, and it's not always about, what can you buy, but it's really about the idea of being happy, man. And for me, happiness is more about being flexible, being able to do the things I want to do, have flexibility and not being in a space of confinement. So people have to define their own what success is, and also realize that success changes in different stages of your life. So as you're at one point in your life and you say, this is success for me, and then you reach it, sometimes we don't go back and redefine what is success now, because I've met that. And it's not necessarily about being greedy, but it's always about, what are you striving for the next thing, right? And it's not chasing money and chasing things, but it's just find that piece of, what is your purpose, what's your location, and then what is it that fulfills you to make you happy in your life?
Man, that's those are some nuggets for sure. Those are definitely some nuggets. And I can relate to all of that 100%, man. Especially in terms of redefining success. So, for me, redefining success, seasons are changing. Things are changing for me, and as a result, my goals are changing. I'm having to redefine my perspective of success, my definition of success. And one of the other things that you talked about was, being happy, how to gauge that happiness. And so really, man, just being thankful, this time has taught me how to, take inventory of the blessings and not just really focus on the things I wish would be different, because that at least, will always be there. I will always wish something would be different or better.
Yeah.
But, when I stop and think about all the things that, have happened that could have turned out different, when I think about all the things that, I was able to do, a lot of people might not be able to say that. And so just had to be content and happy, man, with the things that have happened and not really focus on the things that haven't happened or, kind of happened in a way I wish would have been different, man. And so all of those things kind of play a part into me redefining success.
Right.
And so just taking the opportunity to change my outlook on it, it's an ongoing process. I'm not, here to say, yeah, I'm happy, I'm successful. Yeah, it's a constant thing. It's a daily thing. Daily you have to, take inventory of your thoughts. Daily take inventory of, your outlook on things. But I'm really glad that you brought that up. It's very important. It's very important.
And I'll share a story. You talk about, and you made a good point about, we don't always, when we go back and reflect on things, when we're in the middle of a situation, like now we're in the middle of a crisis, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't always understand why things are happening. And it's funny. I always tell the story to people because when I first started teaching, I got hired midway through a school year. So I got hired in January as soon as I graduated, and I did half a school year, and then I got excess. So back in the day, it was last one in, first one to go when you come in. So I got let go after my first half a year of teaching. I got let go. I got picked up. I did half a year at that school. They had low enrollment. I got let go again. Got picked up again. Finished out the school year at a different school. They let me go because I got excessed again. Went back to the school I started at. So my first like 2 or 3 years, and I was at like 4 different schools. And it was at the time I was frustrated. I was upset. I was angry. I was like, this is crazy. I keep like setting up a room, getting to know the teachers, getting to know the faculty, getting to know the kids, and then I have to up and go. But as where I sit now, it was a grand opportunity because I had a chance to be in 4 different places. I met a lot of different people. I learned so much from those 4 different teams I was on because all those teams had different strengths, different growth areas. Some were very forthcoming with sharing things. Some were not, and it helped me to be more self-reliant, self-sufficient. In other situations, it helped me to learn how to work with a team of people. The school cultures were different. The leadership was different. So I had a chance to really take a lot of experiences in over that time period and early on in my career. And so some of the relationships I made then, I still have now to this day. And even though I was with them for a couple of months, we were able to have a bond, build a relationship. They coached me. I was young, so they took me under their wing and they treated me like their son. So even when you look at a situation, you don't understand why it's happening. It may seem like it's the worst thing that you could go through. If you once you get through it and you go back and you think about it, then oftentimes there's a lesson or something that you gain from it. But that no pain, no gain thing is real because when you go through something, man, it causes you to dig down deep because you can always quit or you can keep pushing through it. And the fine line is to know when do you need to stop and when do you need to push yourself through. 9 times out of 10, we usually want to quit first, right? And then we realize I need to push on through this. And once you push through it, the key point is to stop when you get through it and think about it. What did I just go through? What did I learn going through this situation? Because, man, you learn skills. You learn how to deal with different people. You learn all kinds of things when you go through turmoil and strife, and you learn a lot about yourself. And so, when we're talking about crisis and opportunities, a lot of this is about self-growth and really looking at, man, I'm going through something that's really tough right now, but on the other side of this, what is it that I will be better at? Or what will I be more adept to do? Or what fears will I now put to the back and say, I'm no longer scared. I'm no longer fearful of this. I'm going to step out and do something different. So, man, it's just a great opportunity even in the crisis, man, there's always opportunity to grow and to learn from it if you choose to do so.
Absolutely, absolutely. Another thing, I want to just kind of see what your perspective is about, man. I kind of experienced some setbacks, and I know that many people can relate to this, during this time, man. Setbacks, man. With everything being closed, some people losing, their jobs and finances, just many setbacks, and it can be, hard for some people to deal with. But as for me personally, my setbacks have been a little bit different, and just kind of, when I say setbacks, just kind of mean like things that don't happen according to my expectations, or things that don't really line up with my goals, or what I kind of would have hoped for, or put myself in a position to achieve. And so that's another area I've been dealing with, man, during this time, is how am I handling those setbacks? How do I conceptualize it? Am I really, you mentioned earlier about beating yourself up? Am I beating myself up about these things not happening for me, or am I, just really trying to learn and grow from these experiences? See, all right, so this didn't happen because I need to work on or grow in X, Y, and Z area, and I know these are the things that I need to do and focus on for that to happen. So it's really been, testing me and helping me grow in my mindset as far as how I perceive those, setbacks, man. But what is your outlook on it?
And setbacks are essential, and it's kind of tough to say, but setbacks are essential to where you want to be. And I think that's that piece about your growth mindset, and keeping that even in the face of adversity and tough times, is like, oftentimes when we go through a setback, we tend to isolate ourselves to the sense that this is only happening to me. I'm the only person. I'm the only one. No one else has ever gone through something like this. This is the worst thing that could happen. And then we begin to beat ourselves up. What did I do wrong? What did I say wrong? How come, maybe I should have done this instead of this. But when you really think about a setback, a setback is an opportunity for you to learn from. And I think that, we've all dealt with various levels of setbacks. Some of us have gone through some very traumatic things. Some of us have gone through less, but it's not to diminish anybody's loss, hurt, disappointment, because
Right.
it's all hurtful when you go through it. But I think your point, Mike, is that when you're faced with something that didn't go the way you want it to go, it's not always about what you did wrong, but sometimes it's more about the journey that you're on. And everything that you desire is not always what's best for you. And
Wow.
so one of the things that you whether you're religious or not, this time is prayer, reflection, meditation. But a large part of that is, what are you saying to yourself along the way? Because when you fail at something and you see yourself as a failure, or you talk to yourself like you're a failure, you're inherently doing so much more damage than the actual failure that you experienced. Because now
Man.
you're taking one situation that happened and you're stretching it out over time, right? That was one incident that happened, one experience that you had. And so, what I think is key, and one thing that some of my mentors put on me is to be very mindful about what we say out loud, but what we really say up here, right? Because words are powerful, whether you believe it or not. What you put out there, what you say you want to happen, and the reality is setbacks. When you experience it, how you respond to it, what you say, and then having patience to get to the next experience. Because oftentimes you want things to happen when we want them to happen, how we
Yep.
want them to happen, and we want it to be the exact way that we vision in our head. And every so often, Mike, that happens, right? You like, oh, this is what I wanted. This is how I thought it was going to go, and it went that way. 90% of the time, it's not how it works, right? You want it today, you get it 5 years later. You want something to play out this way, it goes probably that way, shifts to something else. But how we think about things and what we say about them, being grateful for the experience is more important than actually getting what you thought you wanted, right? Because
Right.
our whole lot in life is to continue to grow, whether that is mentally, spiritually, or career-wise, or whatever you're desiring for. It's still about the process and the journey of growth. So when you say setbacks, I think the thing is we've all had setbacks, but it is about once it's over with, how do you proceed with your life afterwards? And do you say that now because I failed this one thing, I'm going to fail the next 10 things that I do? Or do you sit back and say, man, I didn't get what I thought I wanted, but what did I learn from this? And how does this make me better? Right? Because interviews, you fail an interview, man. People think it's the worst thing in the world. Well, you didn't do well in an interview. That's okay. You learn from it, right?
Yeah.
You go through a bad relationship. That's the big one for me. You go through a bad relationship, but the reality is you don't know what you want until you've had something that you don't want. Right? Because everything sounds when you say it, I want a girl that's like this, I want a girl like that, I want to do this. It sounds good until you experience it and you're like, well, you know what? I hear a lot of guys say, like, I want someone like my mom, I want a mom. And then you get somebody like your mom, and they tell you what to do, and they want to you're like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know. So but again, sometimes you have to go through it so that you can understand what you're going to learn from it, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes, that's amazing. It makes perfectly good sense, and as far as the experiences, that's very valid. It's very valid because in order to achieve those things that you wanted to, or as far as myself, in order to meet those expectations, have to have those experiences to really just shape my reality, shape my vision of that. So I think that's very important, man. Do you have any other questions, man, for me, or any final thoughts that you would like to share?
Sure, man. I was wondering. So, from your perspective, and you're a young man, and you have a podcast going. You're a phenomenal educator. You you do mentoring. You do all these different things. What is something that what's a lesson that it's called wins and lessons. So what's a lesson? One of the key lessons that you learned through all the ventures that you're doing. What's a lesson that you've learned that you kind of hold near and dear to your growth as a young man?
Man, and I appreciate that acknowledgement as well. But it's been many lessons, man, many lessons. But I think the biggest lesson that I can take away from everything, and the lesson that kind of drives everything that I do, is to never give up. Never give up. In the midst of me becoming, everything that I am, and doing the things that I'm doing now, it's been a lot of obstacles, and even now, today, presently, there's some many obstacles now, that I have to, learn how to navigate around to get to the next phase. But never give up. It's always going to be people, um, including yourself, that would try to make you feel like what you're doing isn't worthwhile. And I said including yourself because their self doubt, happens when things don't go accordingly. So just it's okay. One of my favorite poems, talks about rest if you must, but don't quit. I feel like it's okay to kind of take a step back to look at the bigger picture, just kind of take a break for a minute, but don't give up. Kind of refocus, recalibrate, reorganize your game plan, and keep going forward. So one word, man, that I use a lot, and I think it describes me well, is resilient. So
Mm.
just being resilient, man, from those failures, from those situations, that are being unfortunate or undesirable. Keep going regardless of what happens. If it's in your heart to do it, find a way to get it done, because essentially you're not alone on this journey. You're not the only person that could benefit from something or just going through something. And so when I connect with people, especially with my young men, in my mentoring group, when I connect them, I see a lot of myself in them, even though I might not be able to fully to fully relate to their situation. I can relate to, a certain aspect. And I just see those young guys, man, and, I think so highly of them. I know that they can do whatever it is they put their minds to, but they're faced with their current realities, whatever, issues they're currently dealing with. And it can seem like there's nothing else to it, but I just try to keep them encouraged, man, and motivated. Hey, your life is going to change drastically after this. This is just this is one small part of your life, man.
Right.
There's so many things you can do, if you stay focused and determined. And so that's, motivation for me to keep doing what I'm doing as well. Even as an educator, man, I could go on and on. I don't want to, ramble about it, but just perseverance, being resilient, and never giving up, man. Those are the lessons. Those are the principles I really just keep at the forefront, man. While I operate whatever it is that I'm doing, and just have a heart for the people. Have a heart for the people, man.
Right.
You have to have a servant's heart to do anything in education, anything dealing with other people. Period. You got to have a heart for those people, man. So just being intentional in those areas.
Very good. That's good, man. I just have 3 things I'll share to round out it, which is one is reflect on yourself and where you are. 2, write down what you want, and 3, repeat it every day. And I think if you do those things, because action will follow in between those different phases. If you reflect on a daily basis, write down the things you desire, the things you want, then where you want to be, and then after you write it down, you say it every single. I'm hoping for, I'm wishing for, I'm desiring, I'm going to. And you use those kind of action words. You're going to do, you're going to have, you're going to be. Man, it's powerful because your actions begin to align with what you're actually saying that you want to do or want to become or where you want to be. And when your actions start aligning with where you want to go, inevitably you're going to get there, right? Because you're going to put in what you need to get there. So it sounds simple. It's difficult to do because patience has to weave in between all of that.
Sure.
But I found it works, man. It works. It's just patience, but it works. And being positive, it works. So, man, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for allowing me to come on the show.
Man, absolutely, man. Again, thank you for, being a part of it. I'm very grateful that you, took the time out of your day, your schedule, man, to be a part of this. And hopefully it's going to help somebody who's listening. But is there any way, man, that people can, stay in touch with you or just kind of keep up with the things that you have going on?
Sure, man. I always never mind giving them my email address. You can always email me. The email address is jhumphy24@yahoo.com. You can always email me. You can also check us out on Facebook, which is The Village. Mid-South is on Facebook. You can go there. And check us out and even become a part of The Village. Is we're going to look to relaunch when this COVID-19 is over and get back out to helping the community and also working with Black educators and trying to make sure that they have a platform and a place to go to get better in their craft and become even more impactful than they already are in our schools and communities.
Absolutely. Most definitely. I'll be sure to include those links, man, especially to The Village Mid-South.
Absolutely.
So, brother, man, thank you again. I'm definitely inspired, motivated now. But man, thank you again, and hopefully get to have you on soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Peace.
All right, peace, brother.